Honorable Leader of Opposition Business, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy President. And I'm hoping that this probably would be the last time that I speak in this Parliament. And hoping that in this sitting, sorry, thank you. Thank you. I may have whet your appetite in one way or the other. My apologies. But on this resolution number 8, I think is maybe the last, or there's another one, relating to a 20 million US dollars by way of credit. We call it, it's referred to as the credit for the health system strengthening project. And of course, the leader of government business did indicate that the senator responsible for the portfolio of health would provide some more information than the broad areas of investment that was mentioned. I need to add my voice to the need for us to consider the health sector very seriously. And it's a sector, Madam President, and when I speak here, Madam President, it's true I speak as a senator in this Parliament, but I have been associated, Madam President, in another life with the health sector. I have been involved in the health sector. I started as an officer on the new hospital, and was part of the various models that led us to the establishment of the OKU. I also worked with the French when we established the new maternity wing to the VH hospital. And Madam President, I have been involved in the Ministry of Planning with the healthcare, having meetings with the various health professionals, the doctors, over years. But some of the things that stayed with me, Madam President, as it relates to the health sector, is it's symptomatic to some of the problems that continue to exist in the dialogue, the discussion. And I saw it here today again. I tried to make my contribution as fair as possible, without being personal, without targeting anybody or institution, even when I spoke of the company that was featured in one of the resolutions. I spoke in a manner in terms of recognizing their role. I never attacked them, although not long after I saw myself being on the attack by other members of this House. That I would not do. I would not venture into, nor attack anybody's company or anybody's person in this Parliament. I would not do that. But I would move on to suggest, Madam President, that the health sector, just like the housing sector, these areas are areas where successive administrations continue to work on to build. And we cannot point fingers at each other when it comes for things like that, but to recognize the contribution made by one administration and see what errors made and to avoid it and move on. So here we are discussing the health sector. Here we are discussing whether the health sector is in terms of, they talk about the injection. I will wait for the specific interventions that is with this funds, but I could say that where we are at this point in time, Madam Deputy President, we are not in a comfortable position. A lot of people are running to Martinique for health care. Madam President, only this week, I saw a classmate of mine, went to Entrepot School together, and I said, "How are you?" And she said to me, "The big C, cancer." And I said, "So what are you doing about it?" She said to me, and she referred to me my middle name. You know, anybody calls me Andre, went to school with me. And she said, "Andre, I'm not spending a cent I cannot afford. I will not leave that debt on my children. God, I'm depending on God." And I said to her, "No, no, 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 no. No." I said, "No, you cannot do this." You understand? I said, "We need to fight this." And this was a very close classmate of mine, a young lady, still working with her family, and have to make a decision on life and death because of the inadequacies or where we are as a country for our healthcare services. I'm not blaming this administration. I'm saying this is where we are as a country, and a lot of people have been making that decision, life and death situation, because of the inadequacies of our healthcare. And that is why, Madam President, if one administration, somebody said when the Labour Party came in and met the St. Jude Hospital ongoing, there was no hurrah, hooray about what was left or how they found it, the Labour Party move on with it. Upon this administration taking office, then we have this big discussion. There was $1 million audit. What are the facts? We have not seen the outcome of it. And a lot of discussion. And just like I heard the member, the senator who made reference to our housing problem, you know, the encounter, you know, the Moshi housing problem, he outlined the state of the housing problem. Madam President, I can tell you that the Bele housing project, the relocation of Tetchime Millet to establish that new community they call Bele, all of the houses were built by the UWP administration, and nobody has paid a cent for it because they rejected it. It's a housing program under the UWP. Yes. I was at the Ministry of Planning at the time. Nobody has paid for it. No, I never designed it. You know, I'm not a designer, I'm a quantity surveyor. So I'm just making the point, Madam President, that as we move from one administration to the next, instead of pointing fingers, we could always find so many things to accuse each other of. We need to move on. But where are we with the health business of this country? Madam President, we could have been a lot more advanced. We could have been ahead. There was no need for some of what transpired to have transpired. We have to move. We have to move with it. And this administration spent 2 years and months. I'm not too sure what exactly, at what point in time, what was the policy position? What is the directive? I heard so many things being said at one time, vacillating, it's going to be started at that point in time. The last I heard for the minister responsible for economic development, if I'm correct, he said he himself is not happy that so much time was spent and they didn't do what they were supposed to do, word to that effect. And that within a few months, before the end of the year, we would expect to see work commence. But Madam President, anybody, and with the respect I think there ought to be for the various professionals in this country. If I heard the member who is in a position to understand cost per square foot of a residential building, he cited, he provided evidence and data to say this building was built at X amount per square foot. I can relate to it. I can relate to a building and its price and its worth. I'm trained in this. When I saw what was left on the site at St. Jude, I can relate to the cost of what was there. And I had a good sense as to what it would take to bring it to practical completion. And that information could have been tested by a number of other professionals if the government chose to do this. But we did not. And my good friend, whom I spoke with, and I'm sure a lot of you who are seated here, a lot of senators, Madam President, a lot of us who are here, can relate to somebody, a friend, a family member of ours who probably have to make that decision between life and death because of what is available and what is not available on this island. I think it's high time, as a government, as senators, as a parliament, that we remove what I consider to be just a lot of waste, useless, just talk, and take the health of St. Lucians, the business of the well-being of our people, seriously, and move the health agenda forward. Whatever we can do, we should do. So I'm hoping that with the $20 million US injection would be meaningful and material in bringing some sort of transformation in the reality of what our healthcare situation is today. So that even if we cannot get all of the services that we required here, and I know the issue of the oncologist services and to get radiation and all of the chemotherapy that is required for when you have cancer, it's very costly for the average person. And our poor people have to deal with that reality.
Senator, you have 15 minutes in which to conclude your presentation.
I will do that before this. So I'm thinking of them. I'm thinking of those persons, Madam President. They go to the agency the agency that's responsible for, that gives support to persons who are sick in education. We do our telethon when I was on the board, but they go to agencies like this. The name doesn't come to mind, you know, and some of them have what you call, they have the barbecue and try to raise funds to help themselves. You know, I know a lady who had, her son just got shot, my friend from Odsa, and while the child was in ICU, she embarked on raising funds for the surgery, but last week he succumbed, he did not make it, you know. And that is the reality. This is how we are dealing with our healthcare issue, life and death situation. So, whereas in the general discussion of all of what that is before us, and I spoke generally, I said, boy, it would have been good that we had the time to really take each motion and look at it in detail, so that I speak. And not that I was saying that everything that was before us is really, you know, of no importance. I did not communicate that at all. I did highlight, however, the government in its borrowing based on the trend that I've seen over the number of parliaments, that, in my opinion, there is some form of recklessness in borrowing. That's my opinion. That is what I see, but it's not based on just this one. It is based on the whole scheme of what has come to this parliament over the past 2 years, and based on what is it that the government promised. And had we not, again, gotten rid of the 2.5% VAT, we would have had $55 million to deal with some of what we're dealing with. You know, these are some of the things I'll continue to reflect on based on the decision of this government. So, Madam President, Madam Deputy President, sorry, thank you for your patience. And this is and please answer me in the best of things. It's not meant to be a war with any member from this side. Thank you.